beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 gates into the city. Hallelujah. 3 gates in the east, 3 gates in the west, 3 gates in the north, 3 gates in the south. Make it 12 gates into the city.
Hi, thank you, and I'm very grateful that you allowed us to take another part in your life on this show. The Nigritia Views, as usual, coming with a very fast and informing, moving, educational, and entertaining show. Today is going to be very special. We hope we bring something to you. The show is going to be very relaxed today, and we're going to be talking about various things. The first thing I think was in the news that they seem to be very much concerned about, or very interested in talking about, is how the brother Powell didn't allow those non-brother people to persuade him to do things that he didn't necessarily want to do. But before we get to that, or before we get to any of our information here, we want you to make sure that you meet the panel on this show today and let them tell you how happy or how they feel. I don't know how they get, but they look good. Let's see how you feel. What's your name?
Jasmine Williams with Nigritia Community Service Center.
Yes, and I'm Chief John Kinsey with the Nigritia Consulate in the city of Los Angeles.
And we're all here to bring to you these interesting and educational shows. Believe me, those of you who have turned on the first time, or you have not been turned on until someone told you, we want you to call up a friend and say, listen, the Nigritia Community Looking Ahead program is on the air. They got some good points, and they talk about our natural and intrinsic values of life and history. And the Nigritia is the Nigritia Animist Institute. That's the name of the parent organization. And it's an organization, Preservation for Humanity. So you might want to pick up some of the points, because a lot of people of color seem to not be able to discover the fact that there is a homeland with some actual ties for those brothers that are living in different countries, you know, wherever it is, Puerto Rico or Brussels or Germany, wherever, and including America. We have documented proof where actually you can identify with, if you like. You're not persuaded to do this. It's not religious that you have to give up the Baptist concept or the Methodist. The only thing is that we know, as Negritians, that God is overall, and whatever else doesn't really matter. So if you distinguish yourself from us in that area, fine. But if you wanted to become included with our lifestyle and that join with us saying that God is overall, and you want to get some good ideas as to who and what you're all about, or what those ancestors that claim to not have any roots is all about, call a friend and tell them to tune in, because we are about to give it to you. But first of all, we want to point out how deceptive people are, and what programs that they put on, or a particular program that tried to make or break down one of God's chosen person, let's say. The man has his own mind, and he clearly distinguished that in the news media in the past 2-3 days. I believe we're talking about Brother Powell. You know, and we were just before the camera switched on. They were talking about something like dignity, or whatever this word was.
Majesty.
Majesty, and what it implies. But the brother rather be called or make his own decisions. What do you think about the decision and the people trying to persuade him to become what he didn't want to?
Well, I really don't think, honestly, Brother Oliver, that it was a difficult decision to make. If you can see, he has been involved in what he called a clear-cut decision-making processes all of his career. Mm-hmm. It was, let's face it, as from the buck private to the ROTC to through the whatever it was, somebody gave him an order and said, carry this out, and it was a bunch of folks that was able to get that done. And then obviously, since did nothing go wrong that they could really pin on him, he looked good. And they carried him on up, you know what I'm saying, up the line. So I don't think it was very difficult, because of the fact that they had begun already to divide him from us by calling him an immigrant. You know what I'm saying?
What?
Yeah, they
Yes,
called him an
an
immigrant.
immigrant.
Now, he come from down in Jamaica just like Farrakhan. You know what I'm saying? But they called him an immigrant. You know what I'm saying? So they had programmed and begun to set up devices that he was already going to fail in that task, because if he was going to be the great white folks savior from the niggers, that was already going to be a miss, because let's face it, we love the brother for showing his capabilities and his abilities to, accede and excel in their environment. But none of us, I don't think, ever counted on him unless we were some of them Group 2 and Group 1 wannabes. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we ever I think most of us, were relieved that brother didn't really take that step out into that foggy run, because he knew that they was going to get at his throat. Let's face it, Pat Buchanan was laying there to jab him in the side of the temple with the biggest rock that he could hit him with. Let's face it, that other dude, what his name, the flying dude used to be on the television around here, Robert Dornan, he was laying to talk about his mama. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying they are just that vile, and again, so they are people who cultivated themselves in what we call dignity. They didn't want their grandeur to be drug in the mud.
Well, wait a minute, but Colin Powell has a lot of dignity.
But I'm saying, sure he has it, and that's why he didn't want it to be drug in the mud, because let's face it, if you in fact get down like Farrakhan and them getting down, they done took Farrakhan and drug it up under the mud. You know what I'm saying? And whatnot. Farrakhan himself carries himself with majesty and dignity and whatnot. And let's face it, Farrakhan ain't likely, except in his speeches, to call one of his brothers a nigger. You know what I'm saying? He ain't gonna recognize him in that role. He's gonna call him a fellow Muslim, and and be very articulate and enunciating in his thing. But I'm saying Colin Powell saw that, and he said, "Oh no, man, no, ain't no need me taking me and my kinfolks out there." You know what I'm saying on that? Because because again, he already understood what you call the religious right. He's already got a high-powered Newt Gingrich powerhouse program, you understand what I'm saying? And if you notice, Newton said now that Powell took the missile cap off of the bomb, he's subject to screw himself on there and be the bomb, you know what I'm saying, that they shooting through. And they got a program. They intend, again, Pat Robertson and all of that, they stay in the background. You don't hear about Jerry Falwell and them no more, but they's all programming. They're programming for what they call in the other people, the larger population is programmed. Understanding the Christian white, and you saw in the last election, the Democrats was able to convince some of the voters that, listen, man, that contract ain't with you, it's on you, you know what I'm saying? And so you're going to be the victims. And they begin to see that, again, in the process that has been promoted, they ain't really intending to spread the wealth. They are intending to conserve the wealth. That's
You're
why
saying
they
the white Christians don't have no intentions of...
Hey,
Yeah,
no, they ain't never
fact.
done it. How you think we
That's
got
de
over here by the
facto.
throat speaking English? It was Christians, my brother, that brought us. Even if the Arab did get us. It was the Christians who kept us in that bondage, growing them peanuts and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Chopping that cotton. It was Christians who done that and claimed they was doing it in the name of the law.
Claim.
The cluckers do it now in the name of the law. They say the law told them to cluck. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, I'm saying the Bible is there for anybody to use. But the Bible itself tells you rightly dividing the word of truth. So that's why, again, Colin Powell understood, no, that wouldn't be right for me to get in that, because that ain't true. They are dealing with opinions and attitudes and what they say they want. Now, there's a righteousness that can go. Ain't no doubt about that. But these principles that these people, for instance, none of the, the larger corporations are taking any of the responsibility for the environmental deprivation that's on people in the health field. And the health practitioners are telling you every day, man, that it's the stuff that they're depleting from the soil and stuff and from putting in the air that's killing the folks, where you got, different kind of germs that's attacking you, and you sitting there looking like a bullfrog sitting on the stove and the water just getting warm. And you can sit there till it toasts you up.
Sit there and cook, and you won't even know you're being cooked.
Hey, man.
So all of this, what are you saying?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I say it was good that Colin didn't go on that trip.
Okay, what do you think?
I think it. I think it proved His Majesty, his ability to be perceptive and knowledgeable, knowledgeable about the circumstances that be.
That's why they wanted him as a good pick, because they saw they had much more experience than we
okay,
had.
if he had run, what would have been the advantage, and what
If
do
he
you
had
think
run,
that would have been? Yeah.
If he had run,
yeah. Do you think
it would have been no advantage for him or us.
Okay. Why
it would
is
have
that?
been an advantage for them because it would have been what they call it a PR holiday. They could have all pros and cons taken good licks on each side. They'd come out with, what they call it, guided missiles, you know what I'm saying, and chunk them out there.
Okay, now we're talking about him becoming an independent party. Then what value would that have, or would it have any kind of credibility?
Well, if we're talking about taking leaps, you know what I'm saying? If we're talking about taking leaps, yeah, there is Perot's party people who have in fact endorsed themselves and qualified themselves to be a party in California, because the Reform Party, I think they're called. Well, now, if he wanted to wait for that, there's all the people that Jesse done gathered who's still waiting to see which way Jesse ain't going to go and all that kind of thing. There's a lot of people who are in a disaffected state about the governmental process of the United States. There are the militia, let's not overlook them. There's a lot of so-called white people who are depressed about the processes that government has been using, because number one, again, going back to the corporations, and I think this should not be overlooked, because the multinational corporations are superseding governments. That what we call that world economy, and most of the people here are hollering because of the fact that the corporations here have moved to other places around the world where they didn't have to pay the people, because the people didn't have no, understanding about the processes, and they could be taken advantage of the way they were done in England, in India, before Gandhi got England off his throat, you know what I'm saying? They was using them people like they used us. So I'm saying that concept is still in the world, and to misuse and use people. Why do you think the people down in Mexico are hollering the Chiapas government, and they are talking down there about right there there's subject to be civil war. Right up here in Canada there's subject to be civil war. You know what I'm saying? Because people no, you can't impose them artificial things on us, and somehow through what we've called education, we become to have vocational education. You know, we used to just have what they call trade schools and stuff, and you could go to a vocational school, get your little thing. But now they done move that into the universities, and so the people at the highest level are only trained. And strangely enough, people who have engineering degrees, which tell you that's you supposed to learn how to fit stuff together, stress and strain and all that, they can't figure out how to get them another job. I'm saying, it just seemed to me.
Okay, if the industries are not taking part in environmental, socially, or into the political arena, then when those people are moved, then what jobs is there to find, along with this national word trade?
Well, again, because, for instance, that's why we as the Nigritians holler that Nigritia is key to know about, because, again, the very enemies that we are talking about are taking their resources. Number one, the United States is taking 50 or 60% of its resources from outside of the United States. I don't know whether they're conserving theirs or they have really used up theirs.
Okay, wait a minute. You say that America, the United States, is
getting at least 60% of its oil from Nigeria.
Okay, but then it is conserving its resources internally, I guess.
It may be, because Alaska got plenty. You know what I'm saying? We don't know what's still in the Black Hills and the other places around. Again, remember, they don't talk to us too much about geography.
Okay, what would that imply? What does it imply to you? You're not saying very much. What is that?
Well, that would imply to me the same thing as he is saying, that if they're not using the natural resources here, and evidently if 60% of it is coming out of our ancestral homeland, then we got Alaska, Alaska, where there's plenty of it and they're not drilling wells there, then it is saying that they are conserving the
Okay, now
resources.
what I'm hearing is that the industries in terms of jobs and revenue developing is moving out of the country to take advantage of those persons over there because you don't have to pay them.
That's a big, because
and then they're bringing in resources from other countries. Then how you propose a person with a degree to find a job? Is there anything for them?
You have to again come up with what they call counterculture.
Okay, so now then we could easily go along with this concept about which Farrakhan is speaking about, get together and form.
Well, that deals with your question of whether or not Colin Powell will become a third-party candidate again.
Okay.
Because again, let's face it, 1 million brothers showed up in the city, right?
Okay.
That means it's some more million left. So if that congealing comes together, you know what I'm saying, then there is quite a possibility that, hey, there could be a march made to, because some brothers and sisters have not given up, and they've said that they're going to convince Powell to run anyhow. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying, even just like they were doing, I guess, on the freeway with O.J. Even though O.J. was going slow, they were talking about, go O.J., go O.J. You know what I'm saying? Like as if he really couldn't get away. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying, there is that spirit in us that links us to us.
Okay, now what I'm saying is, if one person see the advantages of maintaining his self-identity or his personal plans, and not let the deceiver impress him to change his concept of what he is about, then I think maybe we should join forces or maybe promote the concept of which
the
1 million march was intended. Negritians are a person into that, I know, but I'm talking about in general to the most populace of the rest of those
promote it to the
non-black.
general population. For instance, at least I certainly take the position that we ought to support the contention that is being made by the juggernaut Republican, revolution or whatever they call it, that English ought to become the official language.
What do you mean, there was voted years ago by 2. That English
they seem to not have that record, because they're claiming up there, the Speaker of the House, who's in the House where the laws is claiming, and the Senate Majority Leader, who's in there where the majority is claiming that they don't have it like that. So I mean,
it was between English and German. Then what is it now?
Well,
what do they want it to be now?
Well, they want it to be English but again, and there are some, some racist kind of things, if you want to say that particular thing, in the promotion of it. But again, for us as Nigritians, as I look at it, I find that, again, whether you're Christian or crook or whatever it is, if you have social skills, if you have English skills, you can better your social situation look like.
By having command.
Yeah, by having command of English. And obviously, if you know the language.
If that is the standard of the state of the United States, then you could better your condition.
Well, if it wasn't the standard, you could better condition. But if it is the standard, you could then have a check mark to begin to hold them against. The ones who made the law, you might say, that says what English is, what proper grammar is, what not is. Because if you're not speaking that proper grammar, then obviously you're not speaking English. You might be using the English language, but you're not really speaking English.
Okay, if there's a multiple language standard here, then what would be the advantage, the total advantage of knowing English only?
Because it will improve your opportunities to meet and engage in the major activities of the environment. Let's face it, most of the work and the money and the transfers and the transactions that's going on are going on in English here. Now, maybe in Mexico, they're going on in Mexican. maybe in
Spanish.
Canada, and in Quebec they're going on in French or whatnot. But here they're going on in English. Who then is the most inefficient persons in this grouping, in this environment, with this language? And that's usually us Nigritics. And that's because we don't know the language efficiently enough. Number one, they're not teaching it to us efficiently. So that's one of the reasons I won't want, because that would give us a tool to go in there. Because even, for instance, the people who say they're getting money, what they call it, the Mexican people, who say English with a second language, you know what I'm saying? They'd say they're not getting proper instructions in using English, because a lot of them are coming out not knowing how to use the language as a social advancement tool. And that's what I'm saying. Yeah, for our situation, we need something like that kind of tool. And no matter what our value system is, if we can say and read the language efficiently and well, we are likely to get some further insights.
I'd like to make a statement to that. Now, they're talking about making English the official language.
Yeah.
I think it's all of that discussion is a smokescreen to divert our attention from more important matters. As you indicate, everything is written in English. English is the language here, whether it's, and it is de jure and de facto, the language that is spoken. It is the official language. All of the documents, historic documents in the White House are in English, and that's a moot argument. It's as moot as white supremacy. To say that white supremacy does not exist would be to say that everybody who's holding up these different cultural ideologies and power plays are doing it in vain. Those are moot discussions. Sure, there's white supremacy. Sure, English is the official language, but to argue that, oh, well, do we need to make it an official language? That's just like saying, should we call a sheet linen or not?
Well,
we all know that it's linen.
May I respond? I personally am still helping our people as a race look for freedom. So looking for niches is not really one of my particular things. I'm not just interested in getting into arguments about things. I'm suggesting again that we as a people, and I see in this current state, nobody that I know is talking to us as a race about our freedom. I'm suggesting that if we get better equipment to work with, I don't see how I could use white supremacy as a principle that I could get some values of freedom out of. But I see how I could use English as an official language for the white people and for any other people in this environment if I am then commanded to use that language to begin to expect my efficiencies. As we see now, most of us are taking advantage of, I know for years, most of us throughout the South, from the insurance companies, from the financial, the finance companies, and all them, boy, they gouged us by taking advantage of, because we couldn't read, we didn't know what was down there and stuff, and because we didn't know the language, we became victimized in those ways. Now we find that some of us who go to the schools are getting into those arenas and are still, utilizing it to take advantage of us in different ways. They're selling our dead bodies after we bury them. We don't even know nothing about it. We don't know how to go. I got kinfolks now who are buried out there. Hey, it's hard to know how to get through the bureaucracy because we hadn't paid no attention and we wasn't interested in that. We was into something else. Well, I'm suggesting that, again, when I look at the larger arena, I see that around the country, no matter how energetic and active we are, many of us do not know how to articulate the feelings that we have, and so we keep missing the target of getting our own.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's why arguing about what language, if it's convenient for a Hispanic to speak Spanish or a person from French to think in French, then they should think in French. But for general purposes, we should speak in a common language. If I grew up in in Latin America somewhere, and I command, and I had a command of Spanish, then I think that would facilitate I would be able to facilitate my way around in that country.
Okay.
If you come to this, anyone coming to this country, as this is the general language that is spoken, I think we facilitate ourselves better by having command over the language. So I don't disagree with the chief in saying that, oh well, they didn't, when we don't have the facility of language or articulating ourselves in a given language, then we become an inefficient people. But being that this is the language, English is the language predominantly spoken, the more command we have over it, I suggest, for example, the more control we have over our own situations.
I think that's true too. Just like the Nigritia community looking ahead at the center on 1419 West Jefferson Boulevard. I believe right there, in order for us to have more control over that, is that for you to give us a call and let us know that. Did you realize that we are there? We're coming to a close, almost to the end of another show. But just before I go, I want to make you understand we are there, and we like to maintain the level of services that we're now been having for the last few years. By you calling, letting us know that you appreciate our presence in the community. And not only that you're viewing and watching and you have someone in your area that you would like to appear on this show. Of course, you must call area code 213-735-2603. Now that is one way of getting a part or getting involved in our program. And another way is to write a card or a letter. And the address there is 1419 West Jefferson Boulevard. Some of those persons that have appeared on this show that has offered great services, and you might want to get in touch with them. Some of those have been attorneys about certain things, some have been real estate brokers, and some have been other people. But they all offer free services at the community center. So you must call the center in order to obtain a list of information of people that we're networking with. Services there is free. Just give a call or come by, okay? Now you got to remember that we are here to make sure that you get some ideas on some of the social and some of the, I guess, political and philosophical views of the, what do we say, the what do you call them? The
current environment. We're living in it just like anybody else. We talk our talk because we see it the way we see it.
Well, we're talking about these people. I mean, environment, something has close analysis of that most people are not that astute to be analytical. But I'm speaking about people, right? Okay. You know, like, what was the good name that we were talking about?
Colin Powell?
Dignity.
Dignity.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm getting a little twist here, and the sign says that we come to a close of another show. I gotta say, this is a very fast-moving show, and we are called Interesting People, and we have interesting topics. So you make sure that you be joining us on the next show and keep in touch. Oh, I got to keep talking. Slow down. That's it. Okay, be sure to keep an eye on 14 on this program. That's it. Thank you.
City, 12 gates into the city. Hallelujah. 3 gates in the east, 3 gates in the west, 3 gates in the north, 3 gates in the south, make it 12 gates into the city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a city. Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 gates into the city. Hallelujah. 3 gates in the east, 3 gates in the west, 3 gates in the north, 3 gates in the south. Make it 12 gates into the city. Oh, what a beautiful...
Thank you. And I'm very glad that you